Have you ever woken up after a really long night out, next to somebody who you're like, who the heck is that? And realized, what did I do last night? You ended up in a stranger's bed, you don't know where you are, and your head feels like shit. How many times has it happened? Well, it definitely happened to me. I remember literally hooking up with a girl so that I could get a pink flamingo floaty. Was there alcohol involved? Absolutely. So I would say that I'm guilty for that. So what is the deal about alcohol and attraction? I feel like everybody, drinks and they feel like sexy, like they're kind of in a mood of like maybe even hooking up. Ooh, I wonder if I'm gonna be lucky tonight, going out in the town, feeling good. But is it the alcohol talking, or you actually attracted that person, or were you just buzzed? Because most of the times, alcohol actually can make you look past some things in order to feel attracted. But would you really be attracted to them if you were sober? So, we're going to dive into the science behind how alcohol can make you attracted to somebody that you're not really attracted to, and then kind of some of the dangers that could happen if you do. Right. So, number one, what happens is alcohol lowers your inhibitions. It makes people seem more interesting, more fun. You're like, oh yeah, what this guy's talking about is really kind of cool. He's always kind of fun. He's relaxed. He's chill. He's cool. He's suave because both of you are drinking and you might be feeling a little different than if you were sober. And I just want to go and put my hand up and say, listen, like 10 years of my life, this was my life. It was getting drunk and hooking up. That was my life. There were some relationships in between, but most of the time when I was having fun, it was while being drunk and going out. Right. So I'm not judging anybody for being here. I'm just going over the science behind it. Right. Two is it boosts the dopamine, which basically makes everything feel better than it actually is temporarily because you're borrowing that dopamine from the next day, the day that comes up, right? So you're gonna borrow all this dopamine, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the next day you feel like shit. You feel like a zombie, right? Is that really worth using that positivity from the day before or the day after just to feel good right now, right? Next thing it does is it blurs the red flags. Like all the things that you would might catch up on by like reading somebody's energy or feeling in with it. Like it's like all of your sensors are half like 50%. And so you don't feel everything as much. You don't pick up on everything as much because you're blurred, literally blurred lines. I'm pretty sure there's a song about that. I think it's Roddick or something, which is a very scary song if you hear the lyrics on blurred lines. So pay attention the next time he comes on. So yeah, that's all good. So like, who cares? It's not really that big of a deal. Sure, you're like your signals aren't 100%. You're not really reading everything. Who cares, right? Well, you can think about like the first thing that comes to mind is there's seen those videos where the people are like, to the cool guy that I met on the cruise during spring break, you have a 2 year old. So like that's one example. Like having casual hookups, like yeah, sure, it's not a big deal until you have like a surprise kid with somebody you don't even know. Like, is that something that you know? It's something that can happen. Is it something that's worth a one night stand kind of thing? Right? There's other things, of course, like STIs, for the other person being like crazy, being a stalker, sex offender, or even creepers. If you're only met somebody for a couple hours, sometimes you don't really know a lot about this person and you trust them enough to bring them into your home, it can cause complications. And of course, my favorite point is that I've learned recently is like sharing energy with somebody you don't vibe with. If you're someone who has really worked on your tempo, who has really, you go to the gym, you do your meditation, you do your yoga, you've worked through a lot of trauma, and you're sharing your energy with somebody who either hasn't done that work or doesn't care about that work, you're sharing that energy with somebody you're not necessarily attracted to and picking up on that energy as well. Is that worth it? Right? Back in my 20s, I guess it was, but now it's definitely not. So actually my whole entire I haven't like said this very often, but my whole why of why I stopped drinking was because this was my why. I don't want to meet my wife drunk. Why? Because I don't want her to fall in love with my fake, confident, drunk self and not my sober self. Because when I was social, when I was drinking, I was mostly drunk. So I was drunk over almost about half the time, right? And I didn't want my future wife to fall in love with that person, that confident person. I wanted her to fall in love with me. And I didn't want to be finally feel enough confidence to talk to a woman because I was drunk enough to do that. That didn't vibe with me once I decided to quit drinking alcohol. And so basically what happens is what I found out is that when you are sober, right, it actually gives you like real attraction, not the illusion of it. Like you're able to feel the feels, and some of the feels might even feel awkward, right? And that's okay, especially when you're like new in sobriety. I'm telling you, like a year or two of me feeling awkward speaking to women, and I had to just kind of move through that. And I noticed that when I had like this energy, I was like, whoa, I really I didn't realize this, but like I was picking up on sexual energy or sensual energy, intimate energy, and I really just wanted like physical touch. Until I was able to feel confident enough to voice that, I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know like if I wanted to kiss a girl, if I liked a girl. It was so uncomfortable because I was usually just drunk and I just rolled with it. And when I was sober, I was feeling everything, right? And so what you're doing is you're actually choosing people based off of connection, not just like a convenient hookup. You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, I feel like most people can kind of resonate with this. People who drink or used to drink, used to party. It was kind of like a convenience thing. Like, all right, who's around? All right, are they attractive enough? Okay. Are they funny? Are they cool? Okay. Do they not feel like somebody crazy? Okay. Well, let's do this, right? Because what happens is you feel that connection. You feel that like that kind of a little bit of love. Or maybe they love me a little bit. You feel that little tiny bit, and then maybe you'll feel a little boost of confidence. Maybe you'll feel a little boost of love. And then the next night, you got to figure out, okay, was it worth it? Or not? Or the next morning, you figure out, is that worth it or not? And sometimes it's one of those things where you're like, holy shit, what did I do? And not every time, but sometimes, right? And the whole difference between being sober and connecting with somebody and being drunk, connecting with somebody is you can actually feel the chemistry. Like I said before, like when I didn't even know what sexual energy was until I stopped drinking. And when you're actually able to like bring that up, be like, hey, I'm really feeling some energy between us. Like that was never a thing that I said when I was drinking. Like, but it's real because you can actually feel it. Once you get sober, it's like all of your senses go to like 200%. And some people will make sometimes people will feel like awkward because they're feeling so many things, but it's just because they're so used to in those social situations being a little bit tipsy or drunk or buzzed or whatever you want to call it. And so all of those thoughts are kind of like muffled. All those things they're not as loud, right? And that can feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but over time you're actually able to build these beautiful relationships, and it could start by friendships and then go into whatever it might go into. But it's not like that. Like for some reason, there was like this voice in my head when I was drinking, and I was like, "Go hook up with girls. There's a hot girl. Go talk to her." It was like this seedy voice that automatically went straight to sex. But when you're sober, it's like you're in control, not the alcohol, not your alter ego. And I'm sure a couple people can vibe this as well. So I'm just curious for you, like, have you ever had like an alcohol attraction moment where you woke up the next morning and like, why did I do that? I mean, I can honestly remember a few, but the one that I really remember was, the inflatable flamingo floaty. I hooked up with a girl for a floaty. I don't even want to tell you the story. I actually told it tonight. I'm not gonna say it again. But have you ever had that experience where you're like, damn, why did I do that? And if you're trying to build real confidence with dating without alcohol, then stick with me with my channel. We are just getting started. Thank you so much for being here. Love you guys. Hope you have a beautiful night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.